Welcome to the Student of the Game podcast, where I sit down with successful entrepreneurs to extract the knowledge you need to increase your income and avoid simple mistakes. You learn from their failures so you don't have to go through the same thing. I hope that you find one thing that can change your life in this episode. Thank you for listening.
Let's roll.
Thanks for tuning in to the Student of the Game podcast. Today's guest, we've got Chris Luna out of San Diego, and he is going to tell us all about how to get some real estate deals, how to add value to them, how to make more money off of your first real estate deal. So, Chris, pleasure having you here. Let's dive into it. Tell the people how they can learn from you and learn how to get into real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just go back into my backstory. Kind of before I bought the real estate, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. And I think that stems from my childhood. When I was a child, I was selling candy. I was wholesaling like soda to like my neighborhood friends. I would buy it at Costco and then sell it to them and make a quarter. So I've always had this entrepreneur spirit when I was a little boy. And so I think when I got older, I was like, okay, I'm going to start a business. So I dove into a cell phone repair company called Igeeks, started that with no outside capital, just did it myself. Solopreneur, that was probably my biggest mistake with that company, but I grew that company over the span of 10 years, took a lot of the money I was making from running that business, and I started just pouring it into real estate. And we can go into real estate later, but kind of the lessons I learned when I was running my business by myself was...
Yeah. Well, how old were you when you started that business first?
I was 22, 23, right out of college. Okay. And yeah, my grandpa cut me off because, I was like, dude, no one knows this, but I like telling people stuff about me that they don't know because it's interesting. So I think it took me 6 years to graduate SDSU. I was slow, man. I was just enjoying my college experience. And it got to the point where after 5.5 years, my grandpa was like, I can't fund anymore. You'll have to fund it yourself. So Igeeks came out of necessity. I had to, my back was up against the wall. Otherwise I was moving back to Sacramento, which I didn't want. So if there's a lesson in that for your viewers, for the students of the game, it's, sometimes when your back's up against the wall, it causes you to move in a direction that's better for you. Because my grandpa could have continued to pay for me, but that would have just been making my situation worse because I'd be dependent upon him.
Yeah. And why cell phone repair? Is this something you already had experience with?
Yeah, well, there was a need in the market, right? So I'm a freshman and I have an iPhone 3G and I drop it at my fraternity party and I'm like, this is not good. My mom's not going to be happy about this when I come home for Thanksgiving break. My parents were all on me about that type of stuff. So I go on Amazon and I look up the parts, find it on YouTube, how to fix it. And I'm kind of tinkering and enjoying it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool and fun. What started off as a hobby that people, I think in college, made fun of me for, as a joke, they ended up needing my services later on in their careers because everyone was breaking their phones back then. They don't make them like they make them now. So, I was fixing phones for friends and family. And after college, I said, you know what, this could be a real business. And there's huge margins. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm buying these screens for $20, $30 and I'm fixing them for $100 to $150 for 5 to 10 minutes of work. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. So, was it paying for college or paying for everything, or how much money do you make fixing phones?
So, I think my first target was 100,000 and I exceeded that. I think one year.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's way more than I thought.
Oh, I was cranking, dude. I think 1 month, July, maybe 2015, that summer when I was peaking, I think I pulled in $40K in profit in 1 month, all for me, as a 20, however old I was, that was a lot of money. And see, This is where I made the mistake. I wasn't putting it in real estate right away. I thought I was the shit. I was bottle service,
40K this month.
Yeah. Bottle service and just, but hey, I had a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah. Hey, good party school, right?
Oh man, the best. My experience at San Diego State, I hope my kids go there someday because they will have a good time. That's what it's about.
Yeah. You want your kids to go to college, or
if they want to? Maybe back, you asked me that 5 years ago and I'd be like, yeah, I'd want them to do that. But I understand now that that's on them. If they want to go, great, I support it. If they don't want to go, I support that too. I'm going to let them live their lives.
Okay. So yeah, love it. That's, I guess, the way it should be.
Yeah.
So with the phone repair company making easy six figures in your 20s, wrapping up college, and then did you say you sold that company, or what did you do with it?
No, I actually kept it. I still have the rights to it. I figured
Okay.
if anything ever goes wrong, like I'd have that to fall back on. Not sure if it was the right decision. I would actually say, looking back on it, it should have been burn the boats mentality. And I'm not going back to that business no matter what. And I'll have to succeed in real estate. Obviously, I've been successful in real estate, so I'm happy with how it all turned out. But yeah,
How were you getting customers other than just friends?
Yelp. I had I built it to almost 400 plus 5-star reviews. So if you're in Pacific Beach, the thing that we realized from a marketing perspective is very simple. People are going into Google and typing in the words iPhone repair. And because it was based on the location in Pacific Beach, which is this college town in which a lot of people drink and party, everyone's breaking their phones. Everyone knows me in this little small community. All the bar owners know me. They're referring people to me. And it just spread like wildfire. I was like the guy to fix phones between 2012 and I'd say about 2021 at San Diego. Well, what started in Pacific Beach, small little office, like my rent was $400. Like it was nothing. And then just my time. I later opened another store on campus at San Diego State in 2016. So I started expanding a little bit.
And you had employees helping you out?
Yeah. I probably had 2 or 3. I was still running one of the shops. They'd run the others. And that's one thing I never learned to do. I didn't learn to trust others and even like scale that business. I was micromanaging too much. I think if I had that business now, it could have been a very big company in which we franchised. I used social media to attract new operators. I would have ran that business completely different and sold it for 100 million. There's no doubt in my mind, because there's a company called You Break, I Fix who did just that, and that could have been me.
Well, you still own it. Do you think you would?
No, the real estate gets me excited.
Gets too excited.
Yeah.
Well, $100 million doesn't suck.
Yeah, that'd be. I don't know if they sold for 100 million. I think they sold for, I don't know how much it was. Might have been like 30 million.
Yeah,
Still really good.
Still doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, hiring employees when you're really young, what does that look like? Were they younger than you, older than you? How do you find them? How do you hire an employee when you're like 23?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think where I found them. I think they outreached to me actually, or maybe I fixed their phones. I believe they reached out to me, and it was almost like, there's no pre-qualifications. It's like, can you fix a phone? Yes or no. But I wasn't looking at like other things I should have been looking at, like personality types, taking maybe a test to see if we're even going to be a good fit. Are you someone who could show up on time? It was more so like, you know how to fix phones? Great. It's a highly skilled job. Not a lot of people know how to do that. Like, help me out. Let's do this. So didn't have the best employees. I had one guy, Alvaro, who was a rock star. But he wasn't as consistent as maybe he could have been.
So then real estate, you're making money with the business. You get into real estate. How does that happen? How did you get your first deal?
First deal, 6105 Dorothy Drive. I'm up in LA. I'm thinking I'm going to open a cell phone repair shop on campus at UCLA. And my buddy Kevin, my fraternity brother, lawyer buddy of mine, and he goes, why don't we buy some property by San Diego State like our other buddy Matt? I said, okay, let's do it. So I leave UCLA, decide I'm not going to open a shop there. I didn't like the location. It was overpriced, kind of a weird spot. Come down to San Diego, back to San Diego that later that week, and driving around San Diego State, kind of just looking, and then something pops on the market. And I see a property up here on Dorothy, which is like across the street from San Diego State. And I call the agent, and the agent says, yeah, we can get it for you. You want us to rep you? At the time, I didn't have my license. I was like, yeah, you can rep me. Let's do this. Let's tie it up. So we tied it up for $630,000. At the time, that was a lot. That ended up being one of my better deals. We put debt on it. Kevin got the loan. And what else? We put down $120,000 as a down payment, which in single family, we got away with 20% down. And we closed it 30 days, closed the deal. I rented it out for $5,000 to students. I think the mortgage was like $2,800. We were cash flowing. I thought I was a genius. And that's how it all started. I mean, I'll tell you a second story later on about what happened with that deal, but that's how I got my first deal.
Yeah. And the business is how you got the cash to the down payment?
Well, I bought two back to back. Okay. So it was a $40,000 down payment for 6105 Dorothy, and then 5510 Dorothy, another, I think it was like 635,000 for that one. So we bought two back to back. And the story with that is I actually used a line of credit against Igeeks, my business, and Reliant Funding basically gave me like $20,000. And I took some money that I had saved for that first deal, and that's how I bought the first deal. So a mix of a little bit of cash I had and then Reliant Funding, which was like a high interest rate. And then on the
full
other,
leverage.
yeah, it was, I was scared. I don't tell this story, but I was so nervous. I was like, how am I going to, they auto withdrawed my payments every single day, 5 days a week. I think the amount was like $163 a day for like 6 months or something until they got paid back. And it was scary because I had to like make sure that account was funded or I'd overdraft. I thought I was going bankrupt.
But it turned out well.
Oh, it
like
turned out
home run
great.
deal.
Yeah, so that deal we later sold for a little over 1.6 million. I think it was like 1,635 minus some commissions and whatnot. What we did with that deal is what I'm kind of getting known for right now in the space, and it's building ADUs on properties, and not just any properties. I like student housing because I understand it very well. It is property management intensive, but I've become really good at it. So we bought this house for 630,000. We put in $200K to build it, 25,000 plans and permits, and we later exited it at 1.6. So I think when we walked, my closing statement said like $797,000, basically 800K divided by three of us. We each took our 266,000, and me and Matt, my other partner on the deal, we rolled 1031 exchanged, tax-free or tax deferred into two more deals. And we just kept growing by doing that.
So what's the ADU strategy, and what's an ADU?
Yeah. So ADU is accessory dwelling unit. It's very, it's growing in popularity in these dense cities like San Diego where there's no land, right? So there's smaller lots, but we can build multiple units on it. So we'll take a single family home, and if it's on the 6,000 square foot lot and there's a footprint in the backyard to build an additional unit, I can build it by right. It's a statewide, basically, ordinance that says you, Chris Luna, can build this. No one can stop you as long as you stay within these parameters. And for me, it's has to be no bigger than 1,200 square feet. It has to stay within certain setbacks from the backyard fences and that type of stuff. And within 5 or 6 months, it's approved by the city. We'll go and build it with our construction teams here. We'll typically refinance, pull out our equity, and then we'll keep the asset.
Yeah, true value add. So you're building something. Well, like I've never built a property before. So when you have this piece of land that you have the right to build something on, like what is the first step to build an ADU?
Yeah. First step is commit to saying, I want to do this for sure. Like commit, like, no, you're going to do it. I know that's kind of generic advice, but if you're kind of half in, half out, like you're not getting anything done. So commit, say, hey, I'm going to build this. After that, go to an architect because they're smarter than me. And so I go and work with people who are smarter than me that know the code, understand what is possible. What is the max we can build here, right? So I'll go to, say, Kim or ADU Geeks or Multitasker, any of these groups here in San Diego, and they'll say, Chris, you can build 1,200 square feet here, or they'll say on some of these lots, you can build 9 units or 10 units. Whatever they say, I usually make the decision, run the numbers on that. And then I'll say, okay, if I can build 9 units and I can get this much more in rent, how does my cash flow look? How does my permanent debt look? I'm really looking at that value on the exit. What is this thing worth when I'm all done with it? So I know I can get that new loan, a 65% loan, pay back the construction loan, and then make sure I don't have to come in with more money. So yeah, architect's the first step. And then she's going to run it through the state or the city, plans and permits, get those approved. That's pretty easy. You just kind of jump through some hoops. She handles it all. You pay her. There'll be city fees. For me, they're like $4,000. Development fees, $4,000. Water and sewer fees, architect fees, $8,000. It all adds up to be $25,000, $30,000. And boom, you're off to the races. You stamp plans, you go and build it.
And you're looking to buy, say, a single family house specifically with opportunity to build an ADU.
That has been the business model in which I've created millions in equity around San Diego State. We could do a similar business model, not around San Diego State, more of in a kind of up and coming neighborhood. We call that North Park here in San Diego, and it's the working professional. It's the middle of the city. You got a lot of movement. It feels good when you walk around there, right? And it's not student housing. This is more of just people working professionals who want a nice clean place to live, and that model works. But what we're doing is we're basically looking for multifamily zone properties because of that zoning. I know already in my head that it allows me to build much more than one ADU. I can build 3, 4, 5, 9, just depending on the floor area ratio. There's some huge opportunity in that space right now.
And does it make sense outside of California?
I'm not sure on that. I know it makes sense in LA. We're working on some deals out there. I'm currently working with 2 people out there, and they're looking for deals. One of Irina, she's an architect out there, so she and a GC, so she's kind of learning the code, which is good. That's her value add to me. I'm more of the operator, raise the money type of guy. And then I have Colin also out there looking at deals. So they're there, and I like that. I know we will do this in LA eventually. It's just a matter of time. I like that when you build in LA for X amount, the exit, like what it's worth, it's just like San Diego, the price per unit's like $400 a door, $500 a door, $600 a door. It's worth a lot of money. So that is exciting. That spread of what I can build for and what it's worth, it's a grown man's flip at the end of the day, but we like to keep the properties. So San Diego, LA, my buddy Christian, up in Washington, he just told me they're pushing ADUs too. So it's becoming more mainstream. Nate out in North Carolina told me ADUs are things. So there's enough to go around for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious because it's not really something I see a whole lot here on the East Coast. It happens every now and then, just when there's the right opportunity. But I look at California and say I would never invest there. Like you couldn't get me to, but then you are successfully doing it. Like you could do one of these deals right now.
Oh, I have 2. I'm meeting with a seller tomorrow for a deal by San Diego State. And then we have an off-market deal in North Park. So exactly what I told you, I have deals pending right now. I might go and bring him to the Tykes community, which is Ryan Pineda's community. And we might go and take this thing down together. Him and I were just texting about it earlier this week. So that's an opportunity we're working on. And so the reason why San Diego gets a bad rap, I want to address this, and let's make a sound clip out of this one. People give it a bad rap because guess what? If you do go and buy 50 units here, it's going to be a headache. It's going to be a headache because you have a lot of protections that are pro tenant. I'm not saying that's wrong or right. It is what it is. Now, my business model is not that. My business model is buy a single family home and rent to students. My students move out every year, so I can go and just get new tenants, right? I don't have issues with that. I have new tenants. So that's the downside, is high turnover, but it is what it is. It's part of the game. And then, so when I'm not renting to students and I'm renting to, call it like families and couples, well, that's cool too. Like you can increase rent by 10%, no big deal. But the last point I want to make on this is when I'm building from the ground up construction, there is no issue there because rents are whatever market rent is when you're done building it. And I make them nice with vinyl plank, stainless steel appliances. And essentially I just rent them for market rent and there's no issues.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I have people send me deals in California and I just don't even really want to look at them. Cause for some of those, apartments and some single family, and I don't really do much single family anymore, but the same reason you kind of touched on, like if they don't pay, it'll take you like 4 years to kick them out, it feels like. And now you just got to eat the cost, but kind of with your thing, you're protected with that.
The students, man, the parents co-sign. It's joint and severable across 5 or 6 tenants, 5 or 6 moms, plus their dads. I have like 15 people sign on this lease. If one person doesn't pay, they're all on the hook. And so they know that. There's always pushback to get that lease signed. But my units are so desirable, so close to San Diego State that like these students often, all demographics. I mean, I have nurses, engineer students, fraternity guys, sorority, like they all want to be close to campus because who wouldn't want to like walk to campus and like have that kind of experience to live with like 4 or 5 of your friends. So yeah, man, it's a very niche market. We were quiet about it for a long time because we were just buying them all. Now I'm telling everyone about it because I'm moving on to bigger and better things. And I don't mind sharing what's out there.
I want to talk about the bigger and better things, but the first thing I thought of is managing all of it. How do you
Yep.
manage that? Do you have property managers?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I was a property manager for the longest time, which I would advise that to people. A lot of people say don't manage. You don't want to be a manager. I hear Grant say that, but I actually have a different take on it. I think that early on, you should do the work. If that means manage for a year, manage for 2 years, do the work. Understand. So, because if you understand it all, no one can trick you. You always understand, like if someone's trying to one up you, or they're trying to tack on extra fees or charge more for construction, all this stuff. You're just well more equipped for the rest of your life to understand what to look for in a good manager. And so for me, like I like doing that work. Was I a manager forever? No. I
How
was a
long did
man
you manage?
16, 17, 18, 19. I started kind of transitioning out like 2020, about 5 years.
Okay.
So it was
Gotcha.
a good amount of time, and it was extra income on my Igeeks, which towards the end of Igeeks, the profit starts slowing down. So it was almost like a transition. As one business was slowing down, I was like, okay, I need to make money with management. So I started managing as I was buying more and more
Yeah.
for my
You're
partner.
managing other people's properties as well, or your own?
Our properties, yeah, we're managing
Okay.
my properties. Yep.
Just your properties. Gotcha.
Yep.
I was doing property management for, I think, 2 years for our properties. And yeah, you learn so many lessons, like
Yeah.
exactly what you said. You know when someone's trying to take advantage of you, because I had a renovation. Someone quoted me $17,000. Like some
Mhm.
people would think, okay, I don't know, maybe I'll just pay that. It's a lot of money. I got someone else to do it for 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
There you
just because
go.
I knew that was a ridiculous price. I
Let
knew I
me.
could do it for less, and it was true. I got it done.
I'm gonna do the math on that. $17,000 minus 9,000.
Yeah,
Yes.
so 8,000 difference.
And then, so what's the cap rate in your
Let's
market?
say a 7 cap.
Okay. Okay. Whether it was like a CapEx expense or my point is this: if you were able to save $8,000 in a year on anything, it could be any type of expense, right? Divided by, you said, a 7 cap.
Let's say 7, yeah.
Okay. So like you saved, you and your investors, right? Because we have a fiduciary duty to our investors when we're doing deals, $114,000 in value. So like what that means for the listener is, if he was going to sell that property for $1 million, he really could have sold it for 1.1 and picked up 100 and an extra 114. So every dollar matters in the management game, is what my mentor Robert Martinez obviously has taught me, and what Grant preaches too. So once you have that thought process down, you look at it differently. You're like, okay, maybe I should manage for a little bit to really make this a profitable investment.
Yeah, explain that. And I love Robert Martinez because he's an operator and he teaches a lot on how to
Mm-hmm.
be a better operator, because every dollar does matter when you understand the cap rate
Yeah.
and how the values in multifamily work. So explain just the values in multifamily. How does $8,000 turn into over 100,000?
Yeah. So in every market, it's going to be different. Like in San Diego, I'll see 4 caps, 5 caps. At the beach, I was buying at 3.5 when rates were a little lower, and it's a multiplier effect on the NOI. So, and what the NOI is the income minus the expenses. So I'll just do some quick math. If it was 100,000 in income, and then you had 50% expenses, so minus 50,000, you have an NOI, right? Basically a
Yeah.
profit of 50,000.
Net operating income.
Yeah, of 50,000. Now, depending on the market, if you're in Texas, maybe the cap rate's 5.25 or 6. So it's different upon markets. But like here, let's just say divided by 5 cap right now, that gives you a valuation of $1 million. So
Every $50,000 means $1 million on the back end
yeah,
in San
exactly.
Diego.
Yeah. So it's important to really push gross income up, expenses as far down as possible, increase NOI, and then also try and exit when cap rates are compressed, so you can get that multiplier effect and really capture that value.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's the power of multifamily that I think maybe, I mean, I missed it, like, until I really learned about it. I didn't understand that there's such a multiplier on the values of all commercial real estate, really.
Yeah.
Most commercial real estate works the same way based on the income. So how did you end up, buying a couple of houses, adding some ADUs, making some good equity, 1031s?
Yeah.
How'd you end up doing what you do now?
Real quick on what you said, actually, now I forgot what I was going to say. I blinked out, but
It happens.
yeah, it happens. It was about the NOI and the cap rates. Oh well. How I continue to get deals, speed to me, like speed and urgency was important. And I said, okay, sometimes when I want to buy these deals, these agents take forever just to get back to me. And I was like, I don't like that. Like I'm a guy who, like, if I see a deal, I'm going for it. Right. And so I got my license in 2000. I started studying in, I think, 2019 or so, and I got it. And once I got my license, I was able to move very fast when deals hit the market because these deals were competitive. There are a lot of people going for them around San Diego State. A lot of the SDSU grads were kind of hip to the game, and we kind of competed for deals. And so when I got my license and I happened to own a cell phone repair shop on campus, now all of a sudden I'm the guy. Like, I'm there every day, and that was my competitive advantage. Is I would drive around in circles. I had my little path driving for dollars, and what I would look for is for sale signs. I would look for them specifically going in. I would drive around once a day. I see a for sale sign go in. I'd call the agent. I say, hey, how much is this going to hit the market for, and can I just tie it up in escrow? Can I buy this? Like, I own this, this, and that. Like, I will get this deal closed. I also own the cell phone repair shop on campus. I went to SDSU. It's a sales game, right?
Mhm.
And so I bought a bunch of properties, like one after another, nonstop between 2019 and 2022. I was on a buying spree. I'm talking one a month for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then transition to multifamily.
Yes. And that's what I was going to tell you, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
The secret hack for me on how I built a tremendous amount of wealth in 3 years is this. It's not going to work in every market, but for me, it worked. I entered on comps. So when I buy a home for 600,000 or 700,000, I'm only competing with comps of the neighbor. The neighbor's house sold for 630. Okay. John sold for 630. I'm going to buy the neighbor's house when it hits the market for 650. Okay. But what did I do? I added value. Okay. And then I exited on cap rate. I exited on a 4.25 or a 4. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not entering on cap rate and exiting on cap rate like most multifamily. I'm entering
on comps, exiting on cap rate.
Dude,
okay.
Mind blown, because we're having $800,000, $1 million paydays because of this model.
Because you're adding ADUs and now it's becoming a multifamily. Okay, that makes sense. So
it's now an investment to a dog. Yeah.
I think I'm tracking now. So a single family home is going to be valued based on the value of the neighbor's house, basically. Whatever the house in the neighborhood sell for.
Yeah.
That is how a single family home is valued. But now you are building additional units in the back, and now it's a commercial property or an investment, maybe not technically considered commercial, but it's now an investment property, and an investor is going to buy it based on the income,
which is based on the cap rate, because it's like, it's a rental income property. And then on top of that, the investor on the back end who's buying that, he's a doctor, he's a dentist. He doesn't want to do the work. He's tired. Okay. He just wants to take his money and stash it. So what he likes about it is, okay, Chris already has pre-leased 10 months in advance for $12,000 per month. Like, he leases 9 to 10 months in advance. There's demand. And then so they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So we sold a lot of them. The first one we sold was like 2020. I sold a 6441 Montezuma for like 1.2. And I was like, this is it, man. I can't believe we're selling these for millions. We always had a pipe dream that we'd sell these for $1 million. It was always just like, oh, someday maybe. But once we sold that first one for 1.2, what happened was the next one we sold for 1.3, and we kept pushing it. And then it was like 1.4, and then it maxed out at, like, I sold a bunch for 1.6 and 1.7. And then that's kind of when it maxed out, and then rates start coming back down. And, maybe my most recent one, I exited at like 1.4 at 5328 West Falls. So that was it, man. That's how I built a lot of wealth in a short amount of time.
And then I guess it was really good that you were operating it, because every single dollar matters when you're trying to sell it based on cap rate.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't even know that at the time. I just knew, like, it's funny. I got into Grant's Real Estate Club and Robert Martinez's, and I didn't know multifamily yet. You think you know it. I've done some deals, some wholesale, some flips, but it wasn't until I got in those clubs that I really, truly believe now I understand multifamily, because it's been about a year I've been in both of those clubs, and the amount of knowledge I've absorbed every week from Grant and Robert have been tremendous to the growth. So yeah, to answer your point, now I am buying multifamily.
Mm.
So now
So,
I'm doing multifamily deals.
so these clubs and mentorships you joined, why are they worth the money? I know grants cost at least 25 grand. Why
Yep.
is that? Why would you pay 25 grand to be mentored?
Yeah, because I'm getting like one of the best in the world, in my opinion, overall. Maybe he's not the smartest when it comes to whatever, this or that, but in general, with everything, I'm talking marketing, I'm talking how to get deals, I'm talking basically just model his success. I'm getting that weekly, and $25,000. He's already saved me that because he stopped me from doing a deal one time. So that deal would have it could have like destroyed my wealth. I got really excited. It was a big deal. I'll talk about a failure because I don't mind talking about it. I lost this huge deal. I was working on an $18 million deal last September when rates were going up. And Grant was like, don't do that deal. So I walked on it, lost a little bit of money, which is okay, part of the game. But I could have lost everything. I don't think I would have let it ever happen because like I just would have figured it out. That's my personality. But maybe he saved me a big headache of having to go through all of that. Worth
Yeah.
millions. So yeah,
Yeah.
the 25.
What happened with that deal?
So it was very tough to raise money because rates were going up, right? September, October, November during my escrow. I had to raise around 6 million, and it was so tough to get investors on board because that, and then the debt on it, there was not enough. See, I didn't understand it yet, man. I really did not, looking back on it. And I can admit that I understood what I was doing at San Diego State. I did not understand how negative leveraged I was. I was trying to pull debt, like hard money loan, because the income was too low. So since the income was so low, it was like the NOI was like 360,000. The lender could only give me like $8 million. So I had to raise 8 million. Going into this, I thought I had to raise 6 and then I'll get a loan for 10 or 11. So I was just looking back on it. I was like, they're only giving me 50% leverage. I need like 65% to even make this make sense. So now going into it, I just wouldn't have went into that deal, or I would have negotiated a better price up front. But I was so concerned with beat these other 10 investors because it was a sick asset in PB, and you don't see 40 units in PB ever. So I was proud of myself that I got the deal, but I got it because I was willing to pay an arm and a leg. I should have just been like, no, I'm paying 16.5. If you don't like it, suck it. I'm out. But I didn't.
I got to tell you a story of
Yeah.
story of mine that went the other way. So
Okay.
there's a deal in Savannah, Georgia that we were going back and forth negotiating, and I even signed the contract at 6 million. And the night I signed it, the broker told me that the seller fell and broke his neck. He was in the hospital. He hadn't signed his piece yet.
Oh, no way.
So what ended up happening was, like everyone was concerned for his health. Of course, we weren't going to go to the hospital and make him sign a contract, but his wife was worried about what was going to happen if he did pass away because he's an older guy. So she approaches the property manager. Property manager says, well, I have this contract from like 11 years ago that gives me the exclusive right to list it when you're ready to sell. And he comes in and kicks out all the other brokers out of the deal. And he's like, we want 6.25. We need a proof of funds. We need a pre-approval letter, like all these things. And I honestly really didn't even want to deal with him anymore. And he's like, eventually we kind of put this stuff together and sent it to him. And he's like, okay, we'll do it. I'm going to send you the contract. I need you to sign it like this weekend. And we need the money in 3 days. The earnest money. We need the money in like 3 days.
Yep.
So I walked away from the deal. I was like, forget it. It didn't feel good anymore, and I'm not willing to do a deal that doesn't feel good. So I found out today that deal sold for 8.75 million on the market.
How long between?
It was like 3 months ago. We had it at 6.
Okay, so they like flipped
so
it or wholesaled it?
No, they put it on the market. We were off market with it.
Okay, got it.
So they put it on the market, sold 8.75. We could have made 2.7 million on it.
Yeah, but I think honestly, in my opinion, yeah, you could have made some money, but like probably the stuff you just learned from that is probably more important to be like, it could save you on a deal in the future. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Even though, they made some money on it.
And I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
There's more deals out there.
Yeah. I like that story, man. That's good. Thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
Yes. But that's kind of the other side of yours. You possibly could have lost a lot of money and walking away from it. But back to the mentors thing, like that's a thing I'm huge on, but some people, is it right for everybody? You think everybody should pay Grant Cardone 25 grand to join his program?
No, actually, I think that some people should find out who's right for them. Who do they vibe with, right? Like I love Grant because he's real and authentic, and I aspire to be like that. I wasn't always like how I'm presented today. I was a little more shy, reserved, didn't post on social. And so just being around Grant, seeing how he's omnipresent, he's on all platforms, like which platform is his favorite? All of them. Doesn't matter if it's Threads or Facebook, like he's just everywhere, right? And I think if you want to be like someone, you should study them. So for me, it makes sense, but it's not going to make sense for everyone. I mean, you can also consume another route too, is if you can't afford the 25,000, maybe just go and consume all his content on YouTube. That's what I did before I got in his club. I was on his live streams every Monday, 12 o'clock. And I learned you can learn everything that way too. It's just not going to be in order. It's going to be kind of scrambled around. So that's a really good option. That's free.
Yeah, absolutely. All the information is out there for free, pretty much
Yep.
on anything you could possibly want to learn. But the speed in which you're going to learn it, the support you're going to have, that's what comes from paying a mentor.
Yeah. Yep.
100%.
It's almost like you're paying him to show you what not to do, is what Robert Martinez tells me. You know, he's there to show me what not to do.
Yeah. And having access to an expert is huge.
I
Just
text
being able
these
to
guys.
run a question by him. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things you got going on right now? I know you got those 2 deals you're kind of negotiating or about to do. As far as multifamily goes, what's next?
Yeah. So we did, like last July, we closed 10 million worth of multifamily, and that was great. It was by the beach. That was more like less cash flow, but more of an appreciation play long term. And I love that because
they're not making more beach property.
They're not. And it's just that community, Pacific Beach, is this amazing. So, but now I'm moving into development, not big development like this 41 story I'm looking at, they're building right here, but I'm looking at like this mini development play where it's feasible, it's tangible. I can go and build 3 to 9 units and not have to go raise a bunch of money. I could do it in-house with me and the investors I already have, build equity. So that's one little bucket. That's Luna Capital. We will continue to do deals. We got an acquisitions team. We have inbound leads coming in. We got techs rolling out to different markets here in San Diego. So kind of cool to like build a team, because I've told you I had a problem being a solopreneur for so long. So cool to have a team around me for Luna Capital that will grow. We'll have investor relations and start raising capital. And then the other avenue is the education company I'm starting. I'm doing education in which I'm teaching people how to build ADUs. We're filming a course right now on how to buy multifamily units and build ADUs on it. We'll probably end up doing a mastermind and building this big education company around real estate. Those are 2 buckets that I kind of pour into. And all the content you see on all the platforms is to get the attention of people. And I'm just going to go look to do business with 15 to 20% of them, whether it's at a deal at Luna Capital or education. And then we can go and partner on deals later after you've been through all the courses and masterminds. And, I trust you. So after that, we'll go do deals together.
How do you manage your time with starting that many companies? Yeah,
dude, that's a great question, because it's crazy how it all happened. It's like, all of a sudden I'm doing everything at once. Calendly.com. Like ever since I got my Calendly, it's so nice. I only do podcasts now Thursday, Friday, when my I have more time to be free and more relaxed. Earlier in the week, no more podcasts for me. It's like get stuff done. Even my mastermind calls that I'm typically on, I'm now outsourcing that stuff. I think Gabe Bowling, awesome guy.
Yeah.
I used to sit in on those calls and it's great. But you know what? I was like, is this the best use of my time? Like, yes, it's important to be here, but I know a lot of that stuff. What if I have Jeremy, my acquisitions guy, who's going to be running Luna Capital, go to that? So now I asked Gabe, I was like, "Yo, are you cool with this?" He was cool about it. And boom, now I got Jeremy going there. And it's like, now Jeremy's learning, becoming a better human, a better investor, a better teammate. And it's like, well, you know what I'm doing? I'm delegating. To keep it short, I'm a delegator now.
Delegating the personal development as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Gabe's group is pretty awesome.
Very awesome. Love it.
I had Gabe on my podcast over a year ago.
Okay.
And then I've told this story to a couple people. I have an editor that edits my videos and he sends them to me and I forget to upload them, or I never get around to it.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we talked about that on your podcast. So not too long ago, I released the episode with Gabe, but we probably filmed it over a year ago.
Oh my God, a year? Yeah, that's a long time, bro.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah. So his deal room is great, and his business partner Kenji
Ken's
is
awesome. He's a gangster.
genius. Very similar to Robert Martinez. Like this
Yeah.
guy's an operator. That like,
Yes, sir.
my favorite tip that I posted this on my Instagram story was that they try to have leases end in the middle of the month on their properties, so
Mhm.
they have before the end of the month to fill any vacancies. So when they need to report their rent rolls to the bank for a loan or whatever, they've got all the vacancies filled before they have to, send it.
Mhm.
So little things like that, like
Tweaks.
say you've got a unit for $1,100, you're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal if one's vacant. But $1,100 times if they're buying at a 5 cap could be a significant amount of money.
Let's do the math
Do the
real
math.
quick.
Do the math.
1,100 divided by, let's say rates get even better, cap rates compress, and we're at a 4.5. So because you're selling strategically when the market's better, right? So
Mhm.
that's $24,000. Boom.
$24,000.
That pays for your agent fees. It's almost like you didn't have an agent who had to sell it. You had an agent sell it for free because you had the inclination to save that money.
Yeah, and it's the difference of a couple days at that
Mhm.
level. Just
Mhm.
like great stuff, but that stuff's not for beginners. I would
Yeah.
say that for sure. Don't
Yep.
spend 25 grand to, well, his isn't that much, nowhere near that much, but it's
Yeah.
not for beginners.
Yeah.
It's not. Like there's basics, there's free stuff out there. Gabe has a free course. You'll
Mhm.
probably put something out here pretty soon as you're filming it.
Yep.
And listen to podcasts, read books,
Student of the game, man.
meet people, student of the game. That's what this is for. Is I'm here to learn things. I'm here to get as much info from you that I can steal and rip off. R&D, rip off and duplicate.
I love it.
Like that.
I'm all for it, man.
That's what I'm here for. And anyone that's listening is welcome to do the same. But
That's what it's about, man. Like when I was kind of on the come up, like I
on the
felt
come
like,
up.
yeah, when I was on the come
That's
up,
your podcast.
That's my podcast. I had to give a little shout out. But when I was on the come up, I still am, by the way. I'm always telling people, I'm always like, where am I? I'm going to be somewhere in 5 years. Like it requires a new version of me each time. I'm always growing, always expanding. But I had people around me doing deals, but everyone was so secretive about it. Like don't tell everyone what we're doing. And so my mindset has changed because that's a scarcity mindset. Like I've done a lot of transformation on like who I am recently. And that's a scarcity mindset when you don't want to talk about it and share it and give and pour into others. So now I'm an abundance thinker, and I'm like, I'm looking at so much real estate right now in here in San Diego. Like there's plenty to go around. And so once you make that simple little tweak, you're more willing to share. And then that's where I'm at now. And I can tell that's where you're at.
What's that transformation Chris Luna went through?
So it's called Size Seminars. It's a lot of the messaging you hear in Grant's work. I think Chris Crone does some of this stuff. I just found out like people are like walking on like fire. It's not, I didn't do anything
like Tony
that.
Robbins stuff.
Yeah, it's like that, but there's more to it than the hoorah stuff. It's like you really look back to when you were 0 years old to 20, you see how you're raised, how your parents' limiting beliefs were projected on you. A lot of this stuff that, you just kind of bury inside of you and you just store it in there. I was picked on in high school, those types of things. And then they add up. And then, so you really have to peel back the layers and find out who you are and uncover that stuff. And the main thing is you don't just like fix it, you become aware of it. And once you're aware of it, then when stuff arises, you can just pivot, make a move, address it, not run away. So that's how I've changed recently.
Yeah. Better awareness just leads to better choices.
Yep.
So just about finding out who you are.
Yeah. It's been huge in my, in what I've done recently. I mean, in 6 months, we started the social media thing, and I went from just being me to having all these awesome people around me. And that's something I want to talk about real quick is when you start putting yourself out there on social media, what I realize is you attract your energy, whatever you're putting out into the world, negative, positive, whatever it is, you start attracting that. So what I'm seeing is, dude, people keep showing up in my life, like out of nowhere. And I'm attracting those people because they just see who I am. They see my real personality, right, on social. And like, so I'm getting the coolest editors, people like Brandon, Jose, all these people who just keep popping up into my life. And I think it's so great. And then like the podcasting has been good too. I'm meeting new people like you and making all these new connections and relationships with people across the United States. It's amazing.
Do you have to deal with any imposter syndrome as you started putting yourself out there and telling people, hey, this is what I do?
Yeah. I'm like always like at first I'd care too much. Like, oh man, like someone's going to leave this comment. Even it happened to me on Threads the other day. I started thinking to myself, this is foreign to me. I start thinking about Twitter. And what I think about Twitter is there's a lot of smart people on there, probably much smarter than me, to be honest. Okay. So I started thinking like, okay, I'm going to post on Threads and someone's going to call me out on something that's not true. And there's going to be this huge ordeal and it's going to ruin my day. But then I was like, no, Luna, you're going back to your old ways. If you say something and it's not true, who cares? Just own up to it and move on. It's not the end of the world, right? It's just like go there to learn, provide value, pour into others. And maybe along the way, I'm going to learn some stuff too. If someone corrects me, it is what it is. It's a conversation. And I like that.
Yeah. I had something similar happen actually recently. It just came to mind. The Chattanooga airport, Chattanooga, Tennessee, just made a rule that you have to, or your luggage has to be there 45 minutes before your flight, and which I thought was crazy because it takes 90 seconds or less to get through security. There's no line.
Yeah.
You walk in, you go through metal detector, you're at your gate. There's 4 gates. And so I commented on a post of like, why would I show up 45 minutes early when it takes 90 seconds? And someone was like, because they got to run your bag through the check security, dumbass. And I was like, you're right. I was like, yeah, I didn't think of that. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't delete it. I wasn't gonna for a second I thought about deleting the comment. I was like, I don't care. I just commented, oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
Like whatever. No one cares. The
Yeah,
post is no one's gonna see the post after like 72 hours anyway.
Exactly. Just move forward from it. No big deal. Someone mentioned something the other day to me, a comment. What was it? It was like, he was like, stop ruining our housing options because I build ADUs. And he thinks that like there's people that are for it and there's people against it, right? It's like the not in my backyard people. And so I didn't respond, but in my head, I was thinking like, I'm actually providing good housing, clean housing, much better housing than I had when I went to San Diego State. There's so many pros to it. But then I started thinking like a little bit of empathy, like where is this guy coming from? Either A, he's just like a really sad person. Maybe he just lost his job. Like he's probably going through a lot too. So I was like, you empathize with people and whatever, and you move on.
Yeah, whatever. And the thing about posting on social media that helps me get through it is like, in the grand scheme of things, nobody's really going to see it.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're probably going to forget about it. Like our attention span is so short. Doesn't matter. Just keep getting out there.
It's getting shorter and shorter, right? It used to be like, I forgot, someone posted this. I think TJ did from Multitasker. It was like TikTok was like really short, like 4 seconds. Or no, Instagram was longer. Like people would go through posts and then it got shorter with Reels. And then now it's even shorter with Threads because you're just reading like 4 or 5 seconds. Next. So it just gets shorter and shorter. Interesting thought.
Yeah. So what is your overall strategy with the social media?
Post on every platform at least once a day. With Instagram, I'm starting to pick up to twice a day because I'm really pushing the threads. Well, at least one thread and one reel. I'm still super bullish in reels. Like people want to know Luna. They want to hear my voice. They want to see me, see my personality. And that's how I'm attracting all these people around me. And as I build a big company, I think having those reels out there, it's going to attract more and more people to me. I do like threads, obviously, because of the astronomical growth it's had, and I never get any love on Twitter, so I just feel like I'm talking to myself on Twitter. So I'm
Me either. Yeah, I feel the same way. So what do you post about twice a day?
On Instagram?
Yeah, just in general, because I have the goal of posting every day, but I don't know what to post every day.
Yeah, I'll run you through it. I'll start with YouTube. YouTube is like one long form, like once every 2 to 3 days, and that's going to be a podcast, a sit-down video where I explain a topic like on this set, like highly produced, or a podcast or a virtual podcast. So probably like posting 2 to 3 times a week on YouTube. And then we take all the content from there. A different editor just takes all that stuff and repurposes it onto shorts, onto YouTube, so that people see the long form. It's like a gateway.
It's like a funnel, yeah.
And that's just all separate. And then everything I do on Instagram, we end up posting on TikTok. And the stuff I am posting on Instagram is like the sit down videos, the value add where I'm talking about real estate, maybe, a few times a week. And then the rest of the time I'm talking about personality, family life, just topics that come up, just stuff about me so people can feel like they can get to know me. And then on LinkedIn, we're trying to do blogs, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Are you using AI at all to help you create content?
No, ChatGPT sometimes my editor uses to come up with topics, but I'm not using it personally. He comes up with those topics and we just kind of free flow and I answer them. It comes out more authentic that way when I'm doing those sit down videos. But I've recently, I like the videos of me out front of the properties because a lot of people talk on social media, obviously, and I didn't want to be seen as that guy. And because I wasn't showing any of my success, I took a step back and I was like, you know what? Show success at least once a week so people know that you've been doing this, not just talking about it. And I think that's huge because people see that like I'm not just a talker. I've made a lot of money through real estate.
And you're actually doing it because and the education side of it is great because it actually is changing people's lives. It's helping people get into real estate for the first time.
Absolutely.
But it's also a very scalable business model. You can teach 10,000 people easier than you can flip 10,000 houses.
Yep.
And so some people see, the bad side of that. They're like, oh, this guy's, selling a course and doesn't do real estate.
Yeah.
And there's probably people out there that are teaching real estate that have never done a deal. So it is important to show, hey, I'm real. Like, this is me. Yep. I'm talking about real estate because I've been doing it for years. And this is a property I bought. And you throw out the address stuff all the time. I like that. Like,
all the time.
Go check the records. It's all public data.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say Grant and even my buddy Josh Villarreal would say was like, be more specific with the numbers. So like if you make, like, I know I made 800K, but I just told you specifically, I remember on that closing statement, it was like $796,000 specifically because that was my first big payday. You never forget that. But like in my video, I say 800K. So someone could see 800K and be like, oh, is he really telling the truth? He made that up. But yeah, maybe I was $4,000 off. But then what they don't realize is I say we sold the property for 1.6 million, but I really sold it. I think it was like 1,625 or 1,635. So I'm off on that too. We sold it for more. So I go with the numbers off the top of my head because I remember them so well.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I think you've taught me a lot of things, like just the strategy with the ADU, and I'd love to hear, or I guess just brainstorm how that would make more sense over here on the East Coast, just because I don't see a lot of people doing it, and I wonder why. But it's possible that it's more landlord friendly. It's not as necessary, maybe. I don't know. Do you think maybe that if a more landlord friendly state, you don't really need to do that, or does that even matter?
Where's the most dense part of town near you?
Well, I live just north of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty dense city.
Okay. Atlanta then? So
Atlanta. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how big do you think those like, are there a lot of single family homes or lots like that? Or is there a lot of space to build or not really? Because you're looking for dense.
Yeah. There's room to build for sure.
See, San Diego, we're landlocked. We have the mountains and we have the water, right? Same with LA. So when you have the water on one side and the mountains, if you want to live in this town, it's all right there. So it's not going to be everywhere, but I had buddies say that they could do these out in North Carolina. So I feel like that's a pretty open area. So that was interesting.
Maybe it just depends on the city. But you just happen to be in a city where it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. And what I would say is, if you're not going to do ADUs, obviously, like you're in the multifamily space, like that totally makes sense in what you're doing. Like that's
I prefer multifamily. It just makes more sense to me. It's like my language.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Well, any last things you want to leave people with that we didn't get to touch on?
I would say I'll get a little motivational here for you guys because Give
it to me.
Yeah. So I posted a thread. I don't know if you saw it, and it was a thread of an air mattress in my back office. Okay, and so I remember I was like really depressed at this time because I was working really hard and there was like nothing was moving. I felt like I was stagnant. And
when was this?
Dude, this is recent. This was probably like 2019, 2020, maybe around the pandemic. And it was a tough time because there's like very low interaction with other people. And I remember just thinking like, man, my business is slowing down. The school was basically saying I had to like close up my shop. I'm like stressing out. I only had 2 rental properties. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to live. And so what did I do? I took that kind of like almost depression. I was like, I got to like work harder. Right. And I pushed it into working harder and I did. And I'm happy I did. But my point of all this is a lot of people think it's just like super easy and it's just going to show up. Right. But you have to put in the time like every single day. And maybe you don't have to sleep in your office. I was a little I get a little obsessive when I do things, but you definitely have to put in the time. I know it's generic advice, but if you don't, nothing's going to happen if you just sit on your ass. So
That's true. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on here, dropping bombs to the Student of the Game podcast. Where can people find you and connect with you?
first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. This has been a great podcast. I haven't done too many of these, and I felt like this flowed really well, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, people can find me on Instagram, Chris J, like the letter J, chrisj.luna, and everywhere else. Everywhere is Chris J Luna or chrisj.luna, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. Or lunacapital.us. I have that website. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate the time. If you are still listening this long, I appreciate you, and we will see you on the next one.
Awesome, man. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into the Student of the Game podcast. If you listened all the way to the end, I would love your feedback. The best way to connect with me is to reach out through Instagram. Leaving a thumbs up or a review on whichever platform you're tuning in from will really help this podcast reach more people. So if you found it valuable at all I can ask is that you would do that for me. Thanks. Until next time.